My wife's new friends convinced her she deserved an open marriage. When I found out, I turned the tables and exposed a secret that ruined her and her lover's lives. 4 and 5 months ago, my 37F wife landed a new job. She also befriended some recently arrived people. I 36M didn't particularly enjoy them. They were all stew types, professional victims, hard-bitten feminists. These ladies will scream at you for either not opening the door for them, or opening it for them. Neither way is a winner either. I mostly laughed it off at first, but over the past 2 months I observed some unsettling changes in my wife. Married for 11 years, we have 2 children, 10F and 8M. It continued to get worse. She would accuse me of all kinds of stupidity, including that I was born evil since traditionally men subjugated women. Everything I did for her, things she would usually value, became justification for a conflict. It all amounted to garbage. I tried to be composed. Usually these debates would finish with me stating something like, "I haven't done anything harmful toward you. I am only guilty of loving you." Usually it would send her murmurs. And the next day she would be back attempting the same thing with somewhat different justifications. About 5 weeks ago, I had a strong sense of things being quite wrong. She returned late at night without informing me of her delay. Her phone was unreachable to me. She behaved aloofly and was rather drunk. She dismissively told me the next day that I read too much into things, and that I was being domineering. This repeated a few more times. Though I believed she had erased a lot of her messages, I tried to snoop on her phone, but couldn't find anything conclusive. I did come across a post among one of her new acquaintances talking about how she would approach me about an open relationship. Her adultery was what my gut feeling was telling me right away. My wife mentioned in the thread she would discuss it with me on what is currently the second Monday of December. Christmas is being celebrated with my children among their grandparents. We were supposed to be joining them today. She asked me what I think of an open relationship anyway, trying to initiate this discussion during breakfast, like it's simply a thought out of the blue. Fortunately, I knew how to be ready. I had already started recording. Having been reading a lot on Reddit, I understood there was absolutely no way to undo this. Getting out of this with some shred of pride and self-esteem intact was my best hope result. From now on, my priorities are only safeguarding the kids and myself. I stayed silent, neither yelling or screaming. I entered jaw-clenched interrogation mode straightforwardly. She was all smug up until this point, but it vanished right away when she noticed my expression. Me, who is she? She, what do you mean? She attempts to project innocence, as though she doesn't know. Me, don't treat me like an idiot if you wish to have this talk with me. At least you are sincere. Should you be dishonest, what good is this conversation for? She, what do you mean? Me, we cannot have the conversation you wish about our relationship. If you lie to me right now, you seem to be hiding something, clearly. Who then is the man you fucking? She, I am not. Me, oh my god, there's more than one. She exclaimed, me, don't, just avoid lying fucking. You have simply completely undermined my faith in you. You lie, as I can tell. I divorce you or you are honest and we work through this. Right now our marriage is over. Not arguments, not debate, not nothing. Exactly, divorce. Do you realize? She said, but. Me, say it. Do you follow? Do you realize I would divorce you if you lie? Say it like that. Do you realize I already know a great deal? You seem to me like a book. Should I find you lying, we are off. Tell me you have an understanding. She says, I understand. She then relates to me about 2 one-night stands she went on with friends. I probe their names, whether they are married, if she wore protection, etc. Both of them are married males having children. Then she tells me she intends to pursue this since it's beneficial for her, and I have no right to control her. She also tells me she intends to sleep with a colleague at work. Fuck, what the fuck? I also ask about the colleague. His name is his wife's. He is married but, as she says, in an open relationship as she wants us to be in. She says she will arrange for some of her friends to see me. One of them seems to be rather keen. In actual fuck, what the hell? Having seen this friend, I would not touch her with a barge pole. I say to her I have little interest. She shows me the sequence to open her phone when I ask for it. I closed myself in my office while she went to the toilet. She flips out. While she was back pounding on the door, I ran recovery software on the phone for deleted stuff, and came over a lot of agonizing proof. 30 minutes later, I also downloaded a spying tool from an online vendor. I handed her the phone when I got out and urged her to go. She persisted in her arguments. I mainly answered with single words. Over all of this, she hardly seemed regretful. She was ranting at me that I was behaving controlling, holding her back like men always kept women back, that I never loved her, that she had every right to do this, that she expected me to just accept this, that it wasn't a big issue, etc. I refrained from responding. I really scarcely spoke at all. I simply packed her belongings while she whirled, calling at me. I found myself at the front door, patiently waiting till she ran out of steam. She grudgingly headed to her parents' house at last. I informed her she was single now, so she could do whatever she wanted as she was headed down the stairs. I could not control her anymore. In January my lawyer would be in touch. I just slammed and shut the door as she turned to answer. Later on, I observed as she talked about it among her friends. They were telling her that she deserved better than me, that there were empty threats from my side, that she was strong in demanding what she was entitled to, that I wouldn't follow through. You want to gamble? They're telling her that she could just accuse me of domestic violence if necessary. Frightened me greatly. One of them accused her ex-husband of abuse, then went to detail how she had screwed over him and taken everything from him. Right now, I have cameras ordered for my residence. I realize I have to log everything now. Simply said, what I was seeing defied belief. I have never ever threatened her in whatsoever capacity. She then began massaging her AP to a line. They decided to convene at a hotel. I felt somewhat shocked. I searched the internet for AP's wife. It wasn't too long. I told her everything, including the continuous hotel activities, and got her to agree to me as a friend on Facebook. She hung up grateful to me. 2 hours later I received a video from her. She confronted them when she went to the motel. From the yelling, this wasn't the first time her husband had lied. You're emptying asshole. Are you doing this to me once more? To the young ones once more? We were done if you ever did this again, I told you. She screamed. Then she entered the room and captured my wife getting ready on the side of the bed. That first time I started to throw. The wife of the AP smacked her and cursed her out. I messaged my wife to let her know I watched the hotel's video, and that I never want her close by ever. She seems to view our interactions as some kind of pissing competition, in which case she in her perspective is winning. She is absolutely insane. I find nothing comprehensible. She seems to be detached from reality, and to not fully grasp that we are separating. I told her relatives in the WhatsApp group of my wife that her adultery is the reason we are divorcing. Before cutting off from the gathering, I thanked them for making me welcome and part of the family. From her side I have had a few calls and messages. I haven't read them or replied. Simply said, I lack the will for it. I told my folks everything when I phoned them. My father messaged my wife informing her she would not be welcome for Christmas. Right now I'm at my parents' place and spoke with my boss. He is allowing me time off till mid-January to straighten things out. I have been observing my wife's progressively hysterical conversations with her new acquaintances. My wife doesn't think she has lost her family, that her marriage is over, or that her AP doesn't really give a damn about her. She has messaged me a lot, and even visited my parents' house requesting to be let to celebrate Christmas with us. Should she refuse to go, my father threatened to contact the police. I'm Googling divorce attorneys right now, crying my soul out. Though I believe I have been in shock, once I arrived at my parents' house the agony really hit me. Simply said, I find no logical sense to it. Reading their conversations and talking with her hurts me so much. I answered her text just twice. The first, what you say has no bearing. I don't know your name. You do not represent my wife. My wife never would have smiled while destroying my heart and soul. We are going to get divorced. You have no influence or authority to demand anything from me ever again. What you say or wish matters not to me. We are done here. The second, like I said, you are not my wife. You are not known to me. My wife would never subject our kids to the misery of growing up in a damaged household. Whichever you are, you appear to be pleased with your work. My dearest friend, my wife was lovely, compassionate, and thoughtful. You are an abomination of self-obsessions and self-absorptions. The last message stopped the others. At times the suffering is quite intolerable. I wish none of this occurred. Though I wish I could get back with her like previously, I simply cannot do that to myself. The worst Christmas I have ever had. Though I couldn't help myself, I told the children mommy wants no more children. She wants to be with other men and knows we will divorce. They are inevitably unhappy. Luckily, I have my parents here to assist. They treat them with love and affection while I am a total wreck. Though I am not going back to her ever, I will strive to get back on my feet for the sake of my children. I wish I had waited till after Christmas so I could straightforwardly enter counseling. I immediately blurted it out when they inquired when their mother would visit. I have no idea what happened, but should I return to her, I would never be able to see myself in the mirror. Her actions clearly show unacceptably disdain and callousness. I'm gone. Simply said, I find this incomprehensible. Why should she assume she could demand anything from me right now? Is she psychologically sick or anything else? I apologize for the rambling diatribe. I simply needed to let things out. Eat it, I am good with monitoring. I spoke with a friend's attorney, who is familiar with my membership comes with the phone. I own it. I'm good since my wife is using it. I own it in the subscription, so monitoring my own gear is not prohibited. Update 1. Since I last wrote, then, a lot has changed. Though the fact is I've been a pitiful, crying mess since I last posted. I wish I could own it. My wife's conversations with her friends captured me in some kind of obsession. These conversations revealed a lot of crazy and nasty comments. Ultimately though, it was when my Spakes detailed in very harsh terms how her marriage, and particularly her children, were a burden in her life, that she had been deprived of the opportunity to be a successful woman living up to her full potential. She spoke of me, her spouse, how I was a repressive agent preventing her from leading a happy life. She lacked a lucrative profession, plenty of casual sex, etc., mostly due to her family. I broke right now. It was too much for me. I read and reread every line of every email and conversation I had over and over again for the next 30-ish hours. Looking back, she omitted any specifics about our actual burden or oppressive behavior. It was just general remarks without any references or proof. I have never stopped her from doing anything, actually, for practically everything I pay for. Her part-time job's minimum pay would not be sufficient for anyone. Actually, even if she would constantly drop out halfway through. I have encouraged her interests, desires and aspirations even if she did foolish actions in class. Every day I made sure to tell her I loved her, and thanked all she did for the family. I would take her out, romance her, be at her side anytime she needed me. If this is oppression, then I would like some, kindly. Still, I digress. I passed out once, at some point during reading. My 3 closest buddies were in the kitchen with Dad canned dinner when I woke up. These guys have been in my life since childhood. We'll call them Frank, Bob and Mike. Having invited them, my dad brought them up to date. I quickly broke down once more, and until Friday evening I was entirely absent. His ex-military friend Mike lost his left arm under the elbow. Actually, we were all there for him during his recovery. His wife left him. Fortunately, they did not have any kids. Mike did fine. He adopted 2 children and acquired a really nice girlfriend a few years ago. He arranged a Zoom conversation with his psychotherapist, who supported him along his rehabilitation. He greatly helped me to make sense of my emotional situation. Though he focused on amputees, he told me most wives unfortunately flee after their husbands are maimed, and his experiences and lessons really helped me. Actually, he asked me to see my soul, identity and spiritual being as largely related to my marriage and husbandly responsibilities. That part is dead now. Like an amputee will experience phantom pain in a missing limb, I will experience phantom agony from the dead part of my identity. We talked for hours, and since then I've been consistently better. Bob works in a security company as an executive. He's rather well off. I don't really know what he does, but he never talks much about his job. Sunday morning, I was chatting with a lawyer I could never in my wildest thoughts ever afford to even talk to after Bob contacted some law firms on retainer for the company. Bob was bullied a lot, and has always been a major geek. He assured me he would pay the bill. I should not worry about it. I've finally been able to pay me back for the beatings I often gave him, so disrupting his bullies made him delighted. Liz, married with 7 children. Frank teaches in a private school for youngsters, exactly 7. To death, my children just love him and his family. Frank has been keeping an eye on my children's welfare and needs while I recover and straighten things out. Yesterday was a fairly busy day. Early in the morning it began with an STD screening. The bitch handed me chlamydia, another 6-month screening recommendation. When I found out, my self-pity party changed to sheer fucking wrath. What, that is me, on gloves off. Completely customized. If I could get away with it, I would offer her nothing. So the attorney found the ex-husband of my wife's feminist buddy who boasted about screwing him over. It seemed really simple using the court records. I never would have given that any thought either. I conferred with him on WhatsApp. He gave me many thanks, but he also told me about what this harpist did for him, and I can now project from my specs what to expect. It turned out to be terrible. Following our conversation, I was ready for a fight. I am getting ready for battle. Hearing how he had been homeless, and how he scarcely had seen his children in 4 years, all based on his ex-wife's lies, was painful. Though I am at a disadvantage as a man in the judicial system, I will make sure I have loads of proof. Due in great part for our son's benefit, my lawyer advised a preemptive strike using a restraining order based on her harsh and aggressive remarks about men in general. I'm seeking full custody as growing up in a home with an openly anti-male parental figure is clearly very detrimental. I advised the attorney to start straight away. She expects my wife to be served with the restraining order today. Using Zoom, I spoke with my Steves. Remember that she showed up at the door to argue with my dad and hasn't contacted me at all. She doesn't seem to care about any of us, as she hasn't contacted the kids or anyone else either. The call was utterly strange. She clearly was attempting to appear her best. She was fully done up with great cleavage. I have not seen her looking that polished for years. She tried to get me off into a fight to make me enraged during the whole chat. I cooled myself rather well. My attorney had advised on what to ask for. Apparently, if efforts are made for a peaceful divorce before seeking a contentious divorce, things go really well. I had the call under recording. I even mentioned to her I was. My spexter turned out not to be disappointing. She began with this ridiculous claim that there are 2 kinds of penises. One type that shrinks and increases depending on whether they are erect or not, and another type roughly the same size whether they are erect or not. What exactly in the fuck? Someone opens a call to their husband like that. She then pondered on how excited she was about the end of the present limitations so she could go out and personally study this more. I said simply that I was only interested in talking about our divorce. I had no interest in her interests. She became quite nasty when I refrained from latching on the bait as she intended. She muted herself once, telling me she was off to the bathroom. I then observed her conferring with her friends about what she could do to me. She cursed me just for being a male multiple times over the call. I still had this weird sensation that she was seeing this as some sort of game, that she was in control, and that I had no other choice except to put up, shut down and give in to everything she wanted. We made no improvement on our actual divorce, so I came to the conclusion. Okay, great, a contentious divorce it is then. You handed me chlamydia, by the way. And unlike you, I haven't been sleeping with anyone else. Hence you better get yourself to the doctor. She simply scowled at me, saying, "You're right, I don't believe you. I no longer care." I really have no idea at all what is going on with her at this point. The lawyer was startled to say the least, when I sent her the recording. At this point everyone finds my wife crazy. She is perhaps. I can really utilize the chat logs also in court as I own her phone and the subscription. As it turns out, monitoring my own gadget as much as I choose is completely lawful. The harpies were debating fiercely following our summons, but I could at last set it aside. What they discussed doesn't matter to me anymore. Unless something I haven't told them about, my attorney is sure we will win this thing. There we are then. Although it still hurts, at this stage I may consider it as phantom pain. I am going for the jugular. No prisoners have given up feeling guilty about myself. I have to look after my children and myself. I am fine, my children will be too. I will make sure they receive as much therapy as they demand. My specs will shortly be a memory, and I will begin to create a new, better life. Edit. She didn't tell me, but I discovered today she knew about the chlamydia and underwent treatment. Bitch. Fuck. She was smiling and kissing her new buddies about it. Update 2. I receive a lot of comments like I am somehow winning or strong, or in some other sense going out on top. When I go over my postings, I can see that my resentment of the circumstances filters through and I could seem too calm and certain of myself. To be honest, I am not. I want this never to have happened. As the children mature and begin their own life, I wish my family was still together and that I had a long, lazy, comfortable life ahead of me with my wife. Here none of anyone is the winner. The whole train is burning in the ditch. My wife has gone off the rails. I'm not sure her problem is. She is acting as though nothing is amiss yet refuses to see a medical practitioner for probable mental problems. She seems not to be regretful or guilty. She behaves as though I'm irrational for not simply embracing everything she wants. Not even the children have spoken since D-Day. I have to, so I am divorcing her, acting and forward separating our life. She has left me without options. By now there is no going back. I wish so much this wasn't absolutely required. I weep myself to sleep every night for my personal loss, and the knowledge that my children will now grow up in a shattered family. I can never trust her ever again. The fact that my children in truth no longer have a functional relationship with their mother hurts as well. From your child's perspective, why does mommy not want to see me anymore? She loves me, not sure. How the devil do you respond to that? Please let me know if anyone knows. I sure as hell don't. Every day I get up and tell myself that my heart is already shattered into so many broken pieces that it cannot ever mend, only to be proven incorrect all day, every day. She doesn't care. My wife still doesn't know I can see her messages. She is quite sure that I would never leave her, and that my response to her behavior is completely irrational. She continues to disparage me, our marriage, and our children around her acquaintances. Why she hates us so much is beyond me. None of the things she charges us doing to her pals has come true. My attorney secured a temporary restraining order against her, as I already noted. Yesterday morning there was a hearing. Since no further direct threats were reported, it was not extended, using her knowledge of my infection as a threat to try to have her agree to an unquestionable divorce. My attorney advised I hope we could split reasonably using a logical approach. I always assume the worst possible outcome and to test the fact I have to view her as the adversary. I would be able to live with her if she wanted to leave me. But why would I have to be pushed into this somewhat hostile process? Why does she want to damage the individuals who used to view her as much as feasible during the process? From this, what likely benefits she could get? I would value any analysis on this. Simply said, it makes no sense to me. Should I visit court? I most likely will have to pay her a lump payment for the equity in our house, etc. Since she shows little interest in the kids, I'm hoping I will gain custody of them should it get to court. I will most likely not be liable for alimony either. My attorney advised us to try to get her agreement for a friendly divorce. I agreed. Perhaps this week we can meet with my specs and her representative. The ex-husband who fell for the lying harpist stayed New Year's Eve with the kids and myself. It is simply amazing how unfairly the legal system treats fathers. Now should we go to court? I have no fantasies of a fair procedure. His ex lied her head off. The court simply accepted it as reality without any evidence at all. Not since has he seen his children. He almost buckled under the pressure of paying irrational amounts of child support and alimony. He had been musing of permanently calling off things. He has hope again with the fresh data he gets from me. Together we spoke with my lawyer. She advises him to sit on the evidence until my wife's inner counsel's meeting. If he acts right now, it will demonstrate to us that we have access to all their communications. My lawyer wants to complete the divorce between my wife and me as quickly as feasible, and as seamlessly as possible. Right now, I only hope I can get away from her. Should she choose to fight, it may stretch on for an endless period, and cause great anguish. All I need is freedom. If I schedule a meeting, or if we proceed straight to a contested procedure in court, I will post an update. Update 3. Sadly, strange circumstances still exist. Yesterday afternoon was my meeting with my Specs 1 lawyer. She stated she neither had nor needed a lawyer, showed up 30 minutes late and omitted bringing one. Rather, she brought one of her new HARP buddies, who was under sensation till following the hearing. My attorney had given me rather clear directions on behavior. I was not to respond negatively to whatever they said. If they approached me, I was to answer in a non-confrontational way or, if at all possible, favorably. I had to keep my mouth shut entirely if my lawyer laid one or both of her hands flat on the table. So they arrived late without maps, naturally. My speech swallowed the HARP censor and tried to offend me and win me in each manner she could have thought of. My attorney tried to start the conversation on the current topic, our divorce, but they were just fooling about. Many times they chuckled at their own disparaging remarks directed toward me. Watching it made one truly disgusted. My wife still thinks this is all a hoax, hence it is obvious that I cannot divorce her. Only she, in her opinion, can divorce me only if she so chooses. Should she do, she expects she will have everything. I sat there wondering, what the fuck is it going on? I said nothing of much significance. I answered just a few times, and my response is fit. Yes, you are probably right, or I really don't know. At last they ran out of steam, and my attorney got the word in and began to present the suggested amicable divorce settlement. She first claimed that I would pay my wife a sizable lump sum of $60,000 for the equity in the property, investments, etc., and that I was ready to be giving for a fast, peaceful resolution. Before my speech became all enthralled, coupled with her HARP Paul pushed on by the horrific-looking HARP next to her, my lawyer hardly finished the sentence. Where would my Specs 1 assign? Several times my attorney inquired whether my Specs wanted to sign straight away without first reviewing the rest of the agreement. No, she said. She began mentioning their desire to get to the pub, and when she may anticipate getting the money. My attorney thus summoned someone in, muttered something to them, and there was a frenzy of action. We were asked to sign 2 copies when an older woman requested our identity paperwork. The elderly lady stamped it after we were done. I subsequently learned she was a notary, almost poised on the palm of her hand at this moment. My attorney thanked my Speaks 1 the HARP, and said to them we were done. For my wife dropped off without even carrying her copy of the agreement with her. She left it on the table. Looking at her flat hands and at me, my lawyer examined clearly. She wanted me to keep quiet while they were still inside the building. My lawyer smiled at me and said, "Congratulations," when we could see them crossing the parking lot. She then went into great detail on how this was the strangest session she had ever attended for a negotiated divorce. She informed me she will forward the copy of my specs to her upon a hearing before the judge, or, should she obtain a lawyer requesting it. It was buried in my lawyer's drawer till then. On the surface then, I seemed to be going through this divorce a lot more easily than I first imagined. My Spitcha can still fight this and get legal counsel. She would try to call in every conceivable favor she could think of to get me a hearing with a judge as quickly as possible. Probably by video conference. My lawyer advised me. After the advice I received on Reddit, I also hired a PI. Yesterday he showed pictures of my wife kissing 2 separate people at 2 different bars. She then checked into a hotel with one of them. I have a lot of proof stacked up should I need it. If such comes to pass, I simply hope it is sufficient. Just $60,000 and I'm free. My wife agreed to provide me complete custody, only a one-time payment. No spousal maintenance. Nothing. I simply have to find the money now. I have a strategy, and Bob volunteered to front me the whole sum I should need. I still don't sense this as being real. I completely extrapolate the "here's my aggressive lawyer and I'm accusing you of molesting the kids and domestic abuse" to trick out of her hat. My attorney advised me to pay for everything I always pay for, keep a very low profile, and not even gently rock the boat. The advice is to simply wait. Avoid talking to anyone we both know. React to nothing. Basically zero initiative until the hearing. I only have to remain patient and hope for the best right now. Update 4. Therefore, yesterday was the hearing. I consider myself to be essentially divorced. The paperwork will take 4 to 6 months to be official, but at this stage essentially nothing anyone can do to alter the result. My wife's and my own stopping it jointly is the only alternative. I am really fucking weary. I haven't slept in. I'm not sure how many days, hence if I'm somewhat erratic, I'm sorry. I simply have to clear this all out. I have to blow off some. After I type everything out, hopefully I will be able to fall asleep. 12 days after turning in the documentation, my great attorney scheduled an early hearing. She certainly made some favors calls on this one. I am straying from the path. It has been crazy from the weekend forward to today. Many police personnel appeared at my door early Friday morning with a warrant to search the house. I felt somewhat perplexed. Concerned for the children, I asked whether I could bring them outside while they conducted their search. Thank goodness they agreed to that. They hardly told me anything, although I did get a copy of the warrant. I was so rocked that I cannot really make any sense of it. Everybody who claimed that the behavior of my ex-wife was most likely drug-related was correct. One may say that drugs at least had a part in this. The police started utterly destroying my residence. When I phoned my attorney, she spoke with them. Unfortunately, at the time there was nothing that could be done since the warrant was current, though I never gave it any thought at the time. I now have cameras all around in case I get falsely accused. I have sound and videos covering everything. Should I wish, I may possibly file a claim later. To be really honest, I'm not sure whether I have the will or energy for it. Perhaps I will simply mark a line over it and carry on. Then my ex and her 3 harp buddies drove my car while drunk and high, slamming into a house at great speed. I knew nothing then. They all had narcotics in and on their bodies. They were all intoxicated and they all were detained. The crash treated them really roughly. The passenger seat occupant is in critical condition. They have no idea whether she will even make it. Let us call her Henrietta, the lead harpist who boasted about lying about her ex-husband in court and screwing over. Let us call her ex-husband Henry. I now live somewhat close to him. Thank goodness the search turned up nothing. I said that my ex moves with her parents. She no longer resides here. I have no idea what she is doing. No, I never let Henrietta use my car, etc. I simply collapsed when I returned to the house. Everything was absolutely destroyed. I suppose it was just the last straw. I could only think of calling my dad, who brought the kids and me home to remain with my mother, while I was crying on the back porch, eating my mom's incredible comfort food, feeling bad about myself. My dad gathered a huge gathering including 26 friends and family. They restored and cleaned my house totally. They cleaned every room, including clothes, dishes, furniture, even the walls and ceiling. Never has it been this tidy. They even corrected all the minor issues, such wobbly door hinges, etc. I simply couldn't fathom they would treat me in such a manner. How I can ever pay them back is unknown. Thanks to my friends and family, during the weekend I went from feeling suicidal to really good. Henrietta's residence revealed more drugs, and her partner was absent. No babysitter either. Just the kids alone. Sheeps picked the children. And on Saturday Henry was granted temporary emergency custody, after showing the judge the chat logs together with evidence of abandonment drug heaps. He was granted custody really easily. Henry has scarcely seen his children for the past 5 years. He is over the moon delighted. He had been gathering funds to fight Henrietta in court at the time. He still has to visit court to finalize things, but right now the chances are really favorable. Everyone believes Henrietta will have to serve time. If her companion misses it, most likely will be serious time. Henry will next try for recompense for all the bullshit Henrietta put him through and child support. Though he isn't expecting much on this, to be honest I believe he doesn't want to waste his time battling in court. He wants to be with his children to see to it they lead happy lives. Henrietta has been somewhat negligent toward them, quite obviously. Bob has been fantastic and arranged Henry's renting flat through a buddy. I now understand that concerning Bob's personal or professional life, I know absolutely nothing. I am going to correct that. Still I find myself off course once more. Driven off the road and into a house, Henrietta was behind the wheel. They were all somewhat damaged, and given the circumstances, the drugs and the alcohol, search warrants were issued for everyone's house. My ex still uses my house as her residence. I made the decision on Sunday to sell this house, and start living far away immediately. I fear this will most likely recur. She called me on Sunday from her parents. Their residence underwent search as well. Saturday they visited their daughter in jail, and they no longer believe anything she says to them. Long story short, she has been lying to them about everything. They came over to discuss on Sunday. She told them she was staying with me, and that we were trying to work things out. The evening she has been out partying and cheating. They knew nothing about what she had done to the kids or herself, or what was really happening. She admitted she cheated, but she basically told them it was a one-time intoxicated error. My wife contacted me Monday trying to convince me to post bail. Her parents have already told her no. It is $15,000. Following our conversation, my attorney created some documentation declaring that the bond is deducted from the settlement until she shows up for court, and it is released. Her mother was listed in the agreement as the caretaker of the leftover sum. My lawyer wanted me to get my wife out as she wanted her to have no justification for skipping the hearing. My ex signed as she had no options. Monday afternoon she was let go. Her parents tell me she refused to follow their criteria for her to continue living there. Terms like ceasing drugs, committing to rehab, adopting an open everything policy, abandoning the bad pals, etc. She supposedly left their residence Tuesday to hang around with some of her new buddies. She missed the hearing. After presenting the judge everything, Including the incidents over the weekend, I will have complete custody. The agreement we signed guides the settlement. Just 30 minutes, it was quick. Although it will take 4 to 6 months to pass the paper mill, this is actually done. Not really much can be done to stop this now. That takes us to now. I couldn't seem to go to sleep. Everyone was praising me and acting as though I had a significant triumph, but sure as hell doesn't feel like I won anything. Right now, this is only suffering. I still find great love for my wife. I am sure it is over and that there is no going back. She was my best friend. My soulmate up until lately. And even if I feel my love for her has been fatally damaged, it still aches like a motherfucker. In this there are no winners. I lose, so does my wife. My children lose. Not really have the words. I feel as though I should be celebrating that I lost both of my legs. Yet since I acted, one of my legs could have been cut below the knee while the remained cut above. It seems almost like that when people compliment me. Like they are praising me for saving half a kneecap, while losing both of my legs. I thus cannot really sleep, and when I do I am caught in horrible dreams that rouse me covered in cold perspiration. I apologize. I am just grumbling a little here. Still, the hospital called today to let me know my ex is hospitalized. She still is on my health insurance, and I remain her emergency contact. She will have to remain for observation for a few days. She has lost some teeth and damaged her jaw. When I got there, it turns out some of her friends had rather brutally beat her up. I brought her parents. From my wife's phone, word came out that Henry had chat logs of Henrietta boasting about what she had done to Henry. They thrashed my wife and kicked her out believing she had given the logs to Henry. She still doesn't seem to realize that I have access to check her phone. Quite amazing. Until I get the paperwork in hand, I will continue to pay for insurance, her phone, etc., just as I do now. I simply won't believe it until I can see it right before me. At the moment she has nothing. Could she perhaps return home? She asked. I said simply, no way in hell. Unless she cleans and keeps clean for at least 1 year, her mother is not giving her 1 penny. They offered her to live with them under the former tight restrictions. I find it difficult to picture her managing if she rejects. Since everything started, I have only seen remorse from her. But I believe it is regret she can no longer sustain with her madness. She did remark, I am sorry I ruined everything. But I doubt that is sincere. She scarcely turned to look at me during my visit. Seeing her in this state hurt. She is an adult, hence even though I intended to shield her, I have to shield my children from her risky and erratic actions. Other than that, she showed no interest in the hearing. She did not inquire about the state of her friend who had been gravely hurt. She sat there, apparently annoyed, basically inert. This still doesn't make sense. She is now devoid of everything. For what reason has she wrecked her family and caused great suffering for so many people? A buzz and some haphazard sex. Until she has been clean for a lengthy period, I am going totally NC. Simply said, I cannot handle all this insanity. Update 5, many PM me to get an update. I simply lacked the energy yesterday when I was supposed to. I feel quite gloomy and rather exhausted. I barely sleep, and when I do, dreams haunt me. The good news is the youngsters are improving. My dad is a champion. I have no idea what I would do without him. Just me, him and the children. We visited his cabin to ski a little this weekend. It was fantastic. I hardly contacted my ex at all. I did speak with one of her harpist friends, the one in critical state. She woke up, but she looked absolutely horrible. Her nurse told me she was depressed since no one had cared to check up on her while she was there. They had just turned away from her, after getting in touch with her relatives. I asked the nurse if I may speak with her. I am concerned the person who beat up my ex will come for me and the kids, so she consented. Although I know I shouldn't, I thought I should find out from her what had transpired, since my wife started working with them. She asked me first whether I wanted a beach for $20, so that was not very embarrassing. Instead I gave her $50 in return for information. Every one of the Harp pals is a serious drug user, addicts. Against the wishes of the other two, Henrietta brought my wife into their group and persuaded her to do drugs and party with them. To pay for narcotics they sold sex favors. The main one is Henrietta, though as she said, it's all bullshit to protect our own imagined egos. They all advocate this strong feminist, my own body approach. We truly prostitute themselves for money to get drugs. First my wife bought into them, and it didn't take long before she developed an addiction like the rest of them. She started selling sex to pay for drugs once she became hooked. Hearing that the person you loved more than anything to feed her drug addiction is not easy. She desired money, hence it makes sense. From what she tells me, meth is mostly involved now. She has stolen, cheated, mistreated and lied to everyone in her life, hence nobody visits her. Nobody wants anything to do with her. She told me, devoid of even a blink, how depressed she felt about surviving. She looks like walking death without cosmetics, and hopes nothing for the future. It hurt. Listening to her broke me. I shed a lot of tears for my wife's benefit. I'm not excusing her. She lost since she chose to play with this. Oink. She shall now pay the cost. I'll go back to her later. She also told me everything about the guys that beat up my ex-wife. Death threats, resistance to arrest, drug possession, prostitution, drug trafficking, child abuse and neglect, DUI, property damage and auto theft have been charges Henrietta has been assigned. She will most likely go away for a while. At least I hope she will, as her flight risk has been denied bail. I want to thank all of you who contacted with expertise handling addicts. Before I begin, many cautioned me that given the walls closing in, my ex might attempt suicide now. She tried to purposefully OD, and you were right. I had before spoken with her father the great possibility she would have to attempt something. We agreed to keep a close eye on her. Weigh on her. Fortunately, she still does not know I have lived data from her cell. Saturday we were in the cabin, and I received a message from her that seemed to be a suicide note. She told me about the addiction, the prostitution, how she let everyone down, that she would do the only thing she could set her. I got her whereabouts as I had the mobile monitor and quickly phoned her dad. Her father raced outside and discovered her comatose on a park seat. She was driven straight to the hospital and pumped. She was rather hypothermic as well. Imagine what would have occurred had he come just a bit later. I shudder. For now they have her on methadone. She can no longer refuse treatment as her father has effectively been declared her guardian. She will undergo a sedated detox. Her father had her forcefully taken to a rehab clinic. I'm not sure when, but most likely this week. Her father was hired for her abandonment of her children, not for her OD. Giving up your children seems to show that you are not logical, but trying to stop is acceptable. Still, she will receive therapy as fortunately I have not had an opportunity to terminate her life insurance yet. Long as my ex isn't told that I have volunteered my ex-fiel to assist with the finances. The individuals who beat up my wife made me rather afraid as they might come after the children and me. Recall Henry showed in court conversation logs he thought my wife had sent him. Henry agreed to rectify this once I spoke with him, since he gained from the revelation. I'm not sure whether I mentioned this, but Henry is an enraged manly meat mountain. He grew up on a farm lugging goods since he was a small child. Hence he resembles Hulk and could split the typical guy in half. Let's just say he is somewhat terrifying if you do not know him. He bends down walking through doors, has a crew cut, and some facial scars. Actually, he is incredibly soft, patient, and compassionate. Though for him it's a last choice, I don't doubt he will use force if he thinks it necessary. Still, he visited the boys' residence, a true weight hole by the means. He grabbed the two guys by the neck and informed them that Henrietta had given him the chat logs, and that since they hurt someone they knew, they had a choice to make: go with him to the police and confess everything related with the assault, or face him right there and expect some very severe permanent injuries if they chose option 2. He let them know he was rather optimistic they would go with option 2. Apparently they lacked quick enough access to the police. Obviously I am not bothered about them anymore. I will shortly be moving after finding a new apartment. Bob once more came through. I am somewhat depressed overall. This is weighty on my spirit. My friends and family keep me going. I know I have to be strong for the kids. For my ex, my heart hurts despite all. Although I still love her, I know we cannot get back together. Hence I am not regretful of marrying her. She is not the person she once was, and there is simply too much hurt between us. Before all the suffering lately, we led quite a wonderful life. Without her I would not have my children. I would not give them up for anything either. I know it will hurt for a long time. Hopefully I am strong enough to go through it. Oddly enough, knowledge of my wife's addiction has helped my children cope. Talking about mom's illness is much simpler, and she will take a long time to recover. She still loves them, etc. Right now I am exhausted and depressed. We are going to watch Madagascar 3. Henry is here with his kids. I am working to create as many wonderful fresh memories as I can. Henry is doing the same. His and my children now seem to be doing far better. Will be good, I believe. Appreciate all of your help, everyone. Here I believe my last post will be this. Last update. My ex died in a rehabilitation center. She must have taken the medications while there somehow, but nobody really knows how she acquired them. One physician conjectures that she ingested anything like a bag and that it exploded. I will not be answering comments or posting going forward. I appreciate all of the useful comments and ideas you supplied.